And we are live. Thank you to everybody who's showed up so far. We got a bunch of people in the chat already. I'm going to tweet this out now to get even more people in here. But nice to see we have a dedicated audience waiting for it to start. Really appreciate that, everybody that's here. Let me mute that as well so that I don't hear myself talk for the next hour, which is totally a me move. And no intro video today because Brett is still exporting the new episode that's about to come out of BFP, and Premiere is being slow today, so I won't get to actually do an intro video. So I'm just doing a raw intro today.
This is the balance that people have to accept, right? No video of a beer getting poured. Instead, we get to talk about defensive draft picks for like an hour and 15 minutes on stream that'll come out tomorrow.
You selling us short. We hit an hour 30 on this one.
Oh,
I know. Look at us.
Yes, moving up in the world.
People pouring in now. I love to see it.
Yeah.
So purpose of this live stream, A, to answer a few of your draft questions for the next hour, and B, EJ and I have a little something to share with y'all that we've been working on for a while. People have asked about it, which is humbling to us because it's wild that people were even asking about it in the first place. And we just launched a Bootleg Football Podcast website with actual Bootleg Football Podcast merch with like our logos and shit. And it's
you want to see it? You want to see it?
Yeah, we are a registered business now. We're not just a podcast.
That part is thoroughly scary that they put us in charge of that. But all right, let's show everybody what we're talking about. All right, and cool.
Oh God!
You did it! You did it!
Yeah, I did it.
Nice. All right, so let's show you around the site real quick. This is the new Bootleg Football Podcast merch site. We've been working on this for a long time. Somebody says, do we deliver to the UK? Yes, we knew we had dedicated international fans, so we paid extra for the shipping option that allows us, our distributor, to ship internationally. So yes, most countries around the world can get Bootleg merch because many countries around the world listen to the Bootleg Football Podcast. Over 100 so far in the first year, well over 100. So that's pretty darn cool. But as you can see, we've got the Brett special. We've got the knit cap, so he can replace that film room cap when he's on the Bootleg
I've shown
channel.
my hair once on stream, and that's all you're getting.
That's right. And we now have a branded option to allow that to be just the thing. We also have the morning and evening drinkware combination, depending on who you are. One could be morning, one could be evening. I'm not going to judge if you choose one or the other in the morning or the evening, but they're both pretty sweet. Brett and I have examples on the way to our houses at this very moment. So the next live stream we have, we will be sporting either the coffee mug or the pub glass or both if we're feeling randy. We have our classic t-shirts, and this is what a lot of folks have asked for because they've seen me wear this or Brett wear his Texans one. So these are the bootleg versions, and they're a little bit upgraded from this old rag. So this one's got a nice arm sleeve on it with the Bootleg Football stripped logo. All these logos are courtesy of our good friend Will at Whiskey Ranger 29 on Twitter, a fantastic designer who did all of our logo work, all of our frames. Can't thank Will enough. He is amazing. We have a women's version in V-neck and full sizing in all these t-shirts, whether unisex or not. So they go from extra small to most of them 3X. So hopefully fits everybody in the audience. The monogram has the strip logo on the back. This is the one I've got coming in our little promo package. So I'll be sporting that on an upcoming stream for sure. We've got a gray option for those of you that don't necessarily dig all black wardrobes. And then the real deal that we worked hard to do that we're super excited about is bootleg t-shirts in every color of the NFL rainbow. That's right. We had Will, our designer, grab all the actual RGB colors from NFL teams and put together 3-color team logos, and they are on all the shirts. So if you are an Arizona fan, if you are a Buffalo fan, I like the Panthers one. Do you have a favorite? Because a couple of these are
I just remember the Florida teams caused us so many issues going back and forth between what's the right teal, because they're all freaking teal except the Buccaneers.
Yep.
Took forever.
So Panthers look pretty good.
The Bears one looks great.
Bears one's great. Colts one's really clean. I love the Chargers one. I mean, come on, who doesn't love the Chargers unis anyways? But the Chargers, 2-color blue and yellow is just, I love that. So there's your aforementioned Dolphins, Rams. We got Eagles. There's New England, Philly, Pittsburgh, spelled correctly now. The Seahawks one is really tight too. Navy, dark green. That's cool. The Niners one's really slick as well. So no matter who your team is, you can get yourself a bootleg t-shirt. Again, full size runs on all these. They're super high quality t-shirts, actually a lot higher quality than these original prints that we put out. Can't wait for you to be able to grab on. The site is live now. We had to wait until it was ready to go and all wired together. But many people have asked, where can I get a cup? Where can I get a shirt? And we're like, we're working on it. Took a lot longer than we expected. We wanted to have it up and ready to go for draft time. But this is up for now. You can order right now. And there will be new products added pretty quickly. We're looking at some stuff.
Glencairn glasses and stuff like that.
Glencairn glasses, beer koozies, Nerf footballs. Tell us what you want, because that's the whole point, is that you can have stuff, show off that bootleg loyalty. I was going to say dominate the water cooler, but I think a lot of water coolers aren't there anymore. So dominate your home office space. Put it up on camera when you're in meetings. Make your Zoom calls a little bit more interesting, or just have something to wear on the weekends. But there it is. The Bootleg store is live. Feel free to send us feedback.
So why don't we get into some of these questions, because we already have a lot, and this one just popped up from Grace. And so I sent out a tweet, I don't know, like an hour and a half ago. EJ, you might have seen it. It said Ronnie Perkins at 15 to the Patriots.
I saw that tweet. I bit my lip and did not react.
And I sent it because I was going through all the edges today as I was editing the defensive 10 gems podcast, which is going to come out tomorrow morning on this channel, about an hour and a half long, where we go through the 10 gems. And spoiler alert, Ronnie Perkins is one of EJ's 10 gems. And I was thinking in my head, because Jalen Phillips is my edge 1, and I just released a film room on him today. And I was like, okay, everybody has different orders for 1 through 5. Jalen's my 1. Who's my 2? And he mentioned Ronnie Perkins, and I was like, man, I really did like Ronnie Perkins. Let me go back and watch him and Ojulari and Kwity Paye and Rousseau, like back to back to back to back. And I ended up liking Ronnie Perkins more than literally all of them except for Jalen. He ended up kind of being edge 2 for me. And I was like, he's really explosive, really strong, technically proficient, plays his ass off, good against the run. And I was wondering, like, why did he not have, full-time snaps? And it was because he plays like 100 miles an hour. I don't think OU wanted to gas him out, and he was coming off a suspension. So he wasn't like quite in football shape when he started playing in this season. So he only played like half the snaps, but every single snap he played, he was just a flamethrower coming off the edge. So he ended up, being edge 2 for me, which, normally you don't go 15 picks in an NFL draft without at least, 2 edge rushers coming off the board. And he just kind of made sense to me with what the Patriots have. Like, their only like edge rushers right now are Matt Judon, which it's really just a 2-year deal, and Chase Winovich, who I like, but again, he's more of a rotational guy. I feel like Ronnie Perkins is more talented than all the edge rushers they have on the team, and that's including Judon, who I also like. But I feel like Perkins is much higher upside than everybody they got. And if the corners are gone, which presumably Farley's going to be gone, and potentially the Bama kid's going to be gone, Horn maybe not, but I don't know. It kind of made sense to me. It's like a high value position. He's extremely talented. He fits what Belichick likes size wise in terms of his edge players. Yeah, it just made sense to me. What'd you think of it?
I love Perkins. Perkins is currently my edge too. Now that's with a caveat that I haven't been through all the edges. I've been through 15 of them. So you know,
got a good amount.
I've got a good amount. I watched most of them together. I try and do that sort of back to back. So I'm not watching like an edge and a corner and a quarterback and a wide receiver and then back to another edge. I'm watching edge. And I can say, wow, that's not what I saw on the previous 3 tapes. So he's edge 2 for me at the moment. And it's just a ton of talent. Be sure to tune into the 10 Gems episode. We talk about Ronnie Perkins at length. He is very, very impressive. And he is one of the guys that, for being that impressive at a position of need, a very high value position in the NFL, is not getting a lot of talk. And it's surprising to me. I don't know if there's something going on there behind the scenes. You never can tell. We never can tell that. But if you look at his film and the position he plays and his youth, he's a true junior. He is a 3rd-year junior. The sky's the limit for that guy. He gets into the right system with a defensive coach that understands what he can do and gives him a couple of counter moves and good night. Like he will rip people apart.
You know who he reminds me of?
No.
Carl Lawson. A little bit taller.
I was going to say
just vertical explosiveness. Packs a ton of power in his punch.
Sure.
Lawson isn't really bendy, and neither is Perkins, but he plays 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, the full speed thing I can see, the power thing I can see. I get hung up on Lawson was really upright, and I love Lawson. I love Carl Lawson coming out. I couldn't believe he fell as far as he did, but he was one of those guys you kind of had to go, well, if you love bend, just don't look. Just look at what happens at the end of the play.
He is a tree that just goes around.
Yeah, and then he just goes jack and people move. And you're like, okay, well, that's one way to do it. Perkins, I think, is more fluid as an athlete. Plus, he's taller. And I think he's a little more well-rounded than Carl was. Carl was, go forward guy for sure. But you see Perkins move laterally and you're like, holy cow, how does a guy that big move that fast? And he's way faster than Carl in a straight line. Like that play where he tracks down the running back in the Texas Tech game, he runs that kid down from behind.
The first 10 yards, I would say they're similar. Once you get it out to like 20, then, again, because Perkins is
leg it.
He's leggier, he's lankier, so he just, picks him up and puts him down.
All right, let's run through these super chats. Versatile
Aiden Kelly for $10. Super chat for super chat.
Thank you very much, Aiden. Who are your favorites? Love Collins and Cox for their coverage ability, but still intrigued by physical freaks like Baron Browning. You should be intrigued by Baron Browning. We were talking about him, I think, pre-show last night. Spoiler, he did not make our 10 gems, but he impressed the hell out of me, and it was against one of Brett's offensive 10 gems, Pat Freiermuth. They line up Pat Freiermuth wide outside in the Penn State game, and Baron Browning went out to cover him. They didn't put a corner or a safety on him. They put Baron Browning on him, and he played him face up and got a PBU, knocked the ball away in the end zone. He looked like a corner. Baron Browning, for those of you that don't know, is about 6'3", 254. I mean, he's a full-on linebacker. He played that rep like a corner. It was ridiculous. Spotted the ball, jumped up, batted it away. Baron Browning is one of those guys that's good going forward, good going backward. There were some injury concerns with him, but overall, he's one of my top inside linebackers for sure. He's my number 2 behind Zaven Collins, who, if you tune in to the next episode, you'll hear a lot about. Jabril Cox is currently 3rd for me. Again, this is with the caveat that I've been through 9 of these guys. Yeah, nine off ball or inside linebackers.
Have you done Jamin Davis yet, by the way?
Yeah. Jamin Davis for me is 5th. I have Surratt above him. So right now I have Collins, Browning.
You love Chaz Surratt.
I like Chaz Surratt because the NFL is going to be pretty psyched about Chaz Surratt. He's got skills that modern inside linebackers need. And I learned my lesson with Deion Jones a while ago. I was like, Deion Jones, too small. Deion Jones came in to the Atlanta Falcons and got 120 tackles or something his rookie year and played the lights out. And I was like, well, I guess maybe that, hulking, 80s Giants linebacker
Well,
that stuffs the run isn't really necessarily all that necessary. So
keep in mind, it's also about length and physicality because,
for
I
sure.
mean, Darius Leonard played at 215 last year, but he's got 34.5-inch arms. So nobody could block him anyway because he just groots himself out there and nobody can get on his frame. And Dion's just flat out slippery for, 220
Yeah, he
pound
just
guy.
avoids. And he's one of those
Yeah.
guys that can avoid and still make a tackle just about where he would have been if he did the classic stack and shed. And that's what we're starting to see is these fast guys. And Surratt is certainly wheelsy, toolsy. To answer your question, Aiden, some of the other guys that I like that I haven't gotten to yet, Tony Fields from West Virginia, Pete Werner. The rest of the Ohio State guys are all pretty good. Pete Werner from Ohio State. Hilliard is underrated. You love Owusu Koromora. And then
Love
Derek
him.
Barnes from Purdue. Do not sleep on Derek Barnes from Purdue, wearing Purdue colors. He had some eye-opening reps at the Senior Bowl that made me put a check next to his name in pass coverage because he's pretty big. And go back and take a look at his tape. There's a lot there. If you want to do a little deep scouting, go look at Derek Barnes.
Obviously, I have Owusu Koromoa as my first linebacker. I did a film room on him for a reason. I am very intrigued by Nick Bolton in certain defenses.
I agree
Because he's not good. He's not good at everything, but he reminds me a lot of like Perriman when he was coming out of Miami.
That was my comp. Denzel Perryman was my comp for Nick Bolton.
He's a
slightly rangier. Yeah, but he's a slightly rangier Perryman. Like he's okay in flats coverage to the side. Don't get him going backwards and don't get him going on seam routes. Forget that. But inside that little box, he's Perryman.
You don't want him carrying any receivers up the field. He'll sit in a low hole or he can take the flat, as you said, but you don't want anything else. But in terms of run defense, his ability to see it and hit it, and they call it, like linebacker coaches call it, playing cloudy or clear, which is you're basically just playing off your defensive lineman in front of you. If he wins front side or if he's getting reach block backside, they call it cloudy or clear, or is the block cloudy or clear? And that'll tell you, like, do you just stay over the top or you just run through? And he's very good at doing that to the point where outside zone away from him, if you give him just a little crease, he's going to get that run through and get a TFL. He got it against Bama. I mean, got one basically every single game. So he's somebody that definitely intrigues me as well.
Yeah, going forward, he's a menace.
Yeah, it's going backwards. It's a little bit of an issue. But next question here from Ezra Bullock for $2. What do you think about Brown's free agent moves? They've crushed it. Yeah. I haven't complained about a single move they've made, to be honest.
Yeah, Andrew Berry is doing a bang up job. You should be thrilled. He's not overpaying. He's not necessarily filling holes. He's adding pieces to what was a very good team last year, and he's done it strategically. He hasn't overpaid in the first blast of free agency. Couldn't really be more solidly behind what Cleveland's doing right now with their free agent dollars.
And their secondary right now, assuming Grant Delpit comes back healthy, he's going to have a full year to recover from that Achilles. So I think he's got a good chance of coming back healthy. It's Denzel Ward. It's John Johnson, Delpit, Troy Hill, who's a really good nickel. And like your worst DB is Greedy Williams. With I'm not like a huge Greedy fan, but I don't think he's bad. That's
looking good.
And the linebackers, they've got speed. They've got some young guys that are really like Jacob Phillips. I was a fan of that pick last year. Obviously, the defensive line with Miles, and you still got Sheldon there. Billings is a really good nose. I don't know if Ogunjobi signed yet. I hope they can get him back.
He is an FA.
If they get him back, that's huge. And if they pick up one of these edges, which there's a lot of guys that are going to be available at like 19th or 20th, wherever they pick, get one of those. Defense is good. Maybe not great, but at least good. I really like it
for sure.
Next year from YOLO Swaggins for $5. Great name, by the way. Wide receivers for Cincy in round 2, assuming they don't end up signing Galladay, which right now it kind of sounds like Galladay's between the Giants and the Ravens, so I think you're kind of out on that one. Should they still grab a top OT even after signing Reef? So a little birdie told me today that Cincy's the only team considering Penei Sewell in the top 10. Yeah.
Oh, you mean the natural top 10?
The natural top 10.
Okay, the natural top 10, I can get with that. If you're telling me out of 32 teams, nobody's going to pick Penei Sewell in the top 10, I'm like, that's bullshit. But the natural top
think
10,
there's
okay.
a legitimate chance Slater goes before him.
Yes.
And I think there's going to be some actual discussions taking place between him and Tevin Jenkins for OT2.
Depending on the system, I could see it. I'm not necessarily getting behind that. Don't flood Twitter with I hate whoever, because I don't. I think all three of those guys are really talented. I do think Slater is slightly underrated, not as far behind Sewell as most people think. But
if at all.
Yeah, I really do think they're much closer to neck and neck even. Should they still grab a top OT? The answer is yes, they should still grab a top OT. They don't have to do it in the first round, right? There are guys in the second round that could start this year. The OT class is deep, so if they want to go the opposite, if they think there's a better value at a wide receiver that drops to them, they could do that in round one and then get an OT that could compete in that rotation. Because again, if you get that rotation going with Rife, the Alabama guy they have sitting there, and then you add a third quality OT from this class, like they're okay. That's what they need. They need not to have a drop off if one of those guys gets hurt, because they can't afford to have Burrow get killed. They just can't. That's me talking, not the rest of the NFL. Don't get Joey Burrow killed. Oh, I think I didn't show that off, did I?
BNW. Yeah, drink.
Yes. Good old Sportsman's beer from the Pacific Northwest, because everybody gives me crap about being from the Pacific Northwest. There you go. This is my little... And on the bottom, it just says great, majestic taste, which sounds like it got badly translated from another language.
I think it just depends on what they're going to do with Reef. Is he guard? Is he tackle? He can do both. So in my opinion, it's let the board fall to you at 5.
For sure.
There's a million tackles. So if there's a quarterback there that you can leverage for picks, trade down and just get one of the picks, because now that you have Reef, like if you want to get something else, you can, and you can survive. If you do want to tackle, because a tackle is BPA after a trade down, you kick him into guard and you're good to go. So that kind of, like, they are in the driver's seat right now. They can do whatever they want. Most likely, I kind of think they're going to trade down, to be honest. That's what I expect, is because, again, this tackle class is so good. Next question from Josh Gomez for $2. Is wide receiver in play for Tennessee at 21, A.J. Brown, and not much? Absolutely.
Agree.
Let's see. Who would be there? You're probably picking between, like, Bateman, Rondale Moore. Who else?
There's going to be a lot. It depends.
Darius,
again,
maybe.
The people that... This is the thing about wide receivers. There's so many wide receivers. It's the between wide receiver and offensive tackle, those are the two most loaded position groups in this entire draft. And there's going to be guys there depending on where wild cards like Kadarius Toney go. If somebody falls in love with Amari Rodgers because they just need a slot, they have their outside set and they want Amari Rodgers in the slot or as a wild card. Those guys could go against in front of guys that you would usually say, oh, that guy's an outside guy only. But we can assume that probably by 21 that Waddle, Smith, Chase, certainly off the board. You're going to be getting into that second wave. You nailed most of them. But there's going to be guys there, and I know this isn't necessarily going to be the most popular, but like Bateman's probably going to be there, and Bateman would be the choice if he was. But don't look past guys like Cornell Powell. Cornell Powell is worthwhile.
I think Powell would be really good with A.J. Brown. Right now, I just pulled up their depth chart to share with everybody watching.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at A.J. Brown, Nick Westbrook, Akini, who it's a free agent from last year.
No.
He's right. They really got nothing else.
They need to double dip. They need to double dip because there's so many in this draft that they can get one up high and get one down low and maybe even take a UDFA later on that they like, somebody local that they've been watching. And the other thing is they can sign a free agent. The free agent market is junk for wide receivers. Nobody's signing any deals. Everybody was like, Galladay's going to get 18, 19 million a year. He's looking at maybe 12, maybe 13.
Were they in on Juju?
Juju signed for 8.
Well, no, but were the Titans in on that? Like, because
no,
good God,
they were not listed. Philly was the quiet suitor in the Juju sweepstakes, and they offered the same. He could have taken a little bit more money, but he didn't get double digits. The highest offer he got was $9 million. So this wide receiver market is suppressed, and I put up a tweet the other day, and it's because of 2 things. One, there's no money this year in general, and wide receivers are a premium position. Nobody wants to pay them in a year when it's down cash capital. And 2, all these guys we've been talking about. The wide receiver class is absolutely stacked, and this is classic market economics. More wide receivers than need, so you pay less for them. Supply is outstripping demand. That's it.
Sloppy Joe in the chat said Terrace Marshall, who together with AJ Brown, I think would be.
I love Terrace Marshall. I don't know.
Would be great.
You might be able to get him around too, just again because people are going to be picking people like Elijah Moore and Bateman and whatever.
I think he goes before Elijah.
We'll see. Again, it's buyer's choice, and boards are going to be all over the place because no combine. Different teams have different needs. Yeah. There's so many different types. You could see some real wild swings in, just like you said, in edge rankings, in wide receiver rankings. All right, Chet. Seattle has rotated out Brian Schottenheimer for Shane Waldron. Has replaced a couple of pieces on offense. However, they just re-signed Chris Carson for big money. How do you think their new offense will suit Russ? It's their old offense. What do you still think they need? It really looks like Pete is saying he's going to run it back, right?
It seems like it, yeah.
And I hope not, because Pete's offense needs to be updated, and it doesn't really matter who. I mean, Schottenheimer. The reason Schottenheimer left is he did what he wanted for the first half of the season, and then Pete tightened up and said, "Nope, we're going to run it," and all the problems started. And their wide receiver core is quite good, but yes, they could use one of these many guys or a nice free agent addition. A lot of people are talking about Josh Reynolds from LA being a Seahawk. I can see that. No, I wouldn't hate that at all. It basically replaces David Moore, and it's maybe even an upgrade, even though I do like Moore. Chris Carson, they just signed for big dollars like an hour ago, which to me is nutty. Like, there's no reason to do that. I love Chris Carson. He is a good player. He has earned some
other
dollars.
Than Russell telling them to.
Right. But I like him, but from a team building and hanging up dollars perspective, I agree. It's insane. Like, Chris Carson is good. There's no way what he's going to be worth what they paid him, even if he plays very, very well. So, what do they need? What
I think what the X factor is?
I love Gerald Everett.
No, these 2 guys together.
Which 2?
Parkinson and Everett together, 12 personnel with DK and Tyler. And then, again, Chris Carson is a good running back.
For sure.
That skill position wise, they're set. It's these 5 that we're a little bit more worried about, because
we like Gabe. Gabe is
Gabe.
Gabe's fairly solid for sure. Damien's good.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on. Again, we're still not entirely sure what their run scheme is going to be, because I think there's certain kinds of schemes that Damien's great in, and certain that, like, if they're trying to do outside zone stuff, not feeling it. He's more of an inside zone guy, and Gabe Jackson is also more of an inside zone guy. So if they're sticking with that, yeah, we're fine here. Still need a center, still need a right tackle. Like, it's not insurmountable for them to, in this offensive line class, to get an offensive line that we really like, a starting 5 that we really, really like, and with that skill position talent, go out and have a really good offense next year. And the defense, I think, is mostly the same.
Yeah, except you lost your corner. You don't have Griffin.
Yeah, but the strength of that secondary last year, or the strength of that defense last year, was not corner. I'll tell you that much.
Well, it wasn't corner, but their primary edge, Dunlap, is an FA. They lost their corner, right? Whether he's a good corner or not, they have to replace him. Their safeties are quite good. Their linebackers are tremendous. They re-signed Puna, which is nice.
The Puna thing was big. I don't think we've heard about KJ yet.
No, KJ's floating out there. So, All right, let's see what else we got. Hopefully that answers your questions on the Hawks. The Hawks is kind of wait and see, but generally, Gerald Everett was big for them. They needed a true receiving tight end, and Everett is that. And they paid big money to get him. So Russ should be happy with that. Maybe a little OL upgrade. We'll see.
DeFro show for $10. What are the Raiders doing? I didn't even read this yet. Been a fan all my life, and as soon as we get a top 10 offense, we start losing pieces. What would you guys do?
Oh, man.
The exact opposite of what they're doing right now is what I would do.
Did you see the Ross Tucker tweet about this? I'll find it.
No. I didn't
okay, I'll find it because it's really funny.
Judging by little murmurs and rumblings and tweets from various ex-Raiders and people close to the team, the offensive line didn't want to be there. Trent Brown didn't want to be there. John Feliciano trashed the team on Twitter. It sounds like Rodney Hudson was the one who said, "Get me the hell out of here." Mm. It sounds like the only guy that wanted to be there was Richie Incognito, which if Richie Incognito wants something, it's a good bet that most people want the opposite. So 60% of the starting offensive line saying, "I'm out, get me out of here," a little bit concerning. Is that a Tom Cable thing? Is that a Gruden thing? Is it a Mayock thing? We have no idea. The only thing we do know is that the offensive line didn't want to be there anymore, so they kind of had no choice but to blow it up. Originally, we were thinking, like, this makes no sense. What are they doing? Kind of sounds like the Raiders were forced into doing it because the guys just didn't want to be there, which is an entirely different problem. And to be honest, probably a worse problem that your players don't want to be there. Your best players don't want to be there. I don't know where we go forward from here. I really don't.
So I just sent you the link in the chat. Ross Tucker tweeted, "When you have the chance to trade away your OL so you can overpay a backup running back, even though your starters are stud and your defense still stinks, you just have to do it."
Oh, the Kenyon Drake thing. I forgot about that.
And I was like, wow, that's a flamethrower to the whole thing. And he's not wrong. Like he is not wrong. So what are they doing? I don't know. They really needed to fix the defense, and they went out and signed a good backup running back to back up a great starting running back in Josh Jacobs and tossed half their offensive line. So what are they doing? I don't know. Between Mayock and Ryan Pace, I think they're competing in the "what are you doing" sweepstakes.
I mean, Ryan Pace has got to be worse, though, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, sure. But we'll talk about that. We had a lot of requests on Twitter that I talk about the Bears, and I'm going to try and keep my blood pressure down so I don't know them. But
yeah, short answer is we are just as stumped as you are.
Yeah,
because it worst case or either worst case or best case. I don't even know yet. Worst and or best case scenario. The problem is that the players don't want to be there, and you can decide for yourself if that is worse or better than the front office just being incompetent. Is the fact that the coaching staff is chasing players away. One of those things is true. We don't entirely know which one yet, but both of them are bad. So I don't know what the Raiders are going to do about it, to be honest. I really don't. Thoughts on Raiders free agency? Seem pretty bad. I'm just continuing on the theme. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Where should the Cardinals go in the draft? Greetings from Germany. So the Cardinals, because of their work they've done in free agency, I'll pull them up here.
Yeah, Cardinals get really interesting.
Yeah, they've got a lot going for them right now. Not going to lie. Let me pull this up here.
Yeah. And they've got leverage. The thing about what Keim has done in Arizona is that he has gone out and done some things that give him freedom in the draft, give the organization freedom in the draft to hopefully, and you always hope for this, let the draft come to them. They can be smart about it, and they can say, well, I don't need this. I don't have 5 needs anymore. I have 2 and a maybe, and I can look at what's best here. And if I don't really need it and I think I can get it later, I can trade down, I can get more picks. It just lets you move up, down, or sideways. And that's a good thing. And it hasn't been something that Keim has been great at. So it's a welcome development in the desert. Talked to Blake Murphy a bunch, who runs the Revenge of the Birds podcast. I've been on that podcast. And he, covers Arizona, and he's I really like his eye. He's a smart league watcher. And he said quite a bit about this, but it's not a bad spot. They're not playing from behind here. They're playing from a position of relative neutrality or strength that allows them to be flexible. That's good.
The one spot I don't really think they're flexible is right down here at corner. Your best one is probably Byron Murphy, who's really better at nickel than anything else. I don't think that they plan to kick him back outside because that did not go well the first time they tried it. Mm-hmm. I think they'll leave him inside. And with Patrick Peterson now in Minnesota, I'm not super high on Kevin Peterson, and I guess it would be
Alford re-signed with them for fairly, very reasonable. But yeah, they could use an injection of talent there. They could use a top corner. That was one of the two that I was including. And the other thing is, I think they can go after replacing some of their wide receiver core, because Hopkins is great. The AJ Green thing I was not wild about. I think AJ Green's time has sort of come and gone. Coach on the field, maybe. I was a big Christian Kirk fan, and he showed some flashes, but like Andy Isabella has not done a lot. And there's just so much talent again in free agency, which they chose AJ Green. Okay, I get it. They love their veterans in Arizona. But there's so many guys in the draft that you could add whatever element you want. You need a big outside guy? Sure, we got him. You need a flashy speed guy that is, not Andy Isabella, who I was not wild about. Yeah, we got those guys too. There's, 5 of them. You can throw a stick and hit one in this draft. So you got the chance to upgrade that piece. Tight end would be interesting because Dan Arnold played that role for them pretty well. Max Williams is a guy I really liked, but has not really panned out in the NFL in terms of a receiving threat. He's a decent blocker, brings a lot of effort, but they could upgrade that spot as well. And then I don't think they might think their line is all set, but I'm looking at those names with Sweezy and Pugh at the guards. Like, if you get a good guard dropping into your lap, and there are many in this draft, like, go get one.
Yeah, which is probably going to be like a day 2 thing for them. Day 1,
I think
they're locked in on Farley probably won't be there. Surtain and Horn are maybes, but semi-likely. And if they really just bust on corner and they don't get any of them, I think you're kind of right on receiver, where it's like, we like Hopkins, we like Kirk. I still don't think we know what's going to happen with Larry, because I don't think he's technically signed right now.
He is not.
So it's like, do you want AJ Green as your number 3, or do you want Bateman, Moore, Tony as your number 3, and really just lean into the fact, like, we have more guys than you can cover and a really good quarterback to throw to them. Competing in that division when you've got to go against, now that we know Russell is staying, Russell Wilson, Stafford, still very potent Niners offense, like, you're going to have to score. I kind of feel like, again, if the top corners are gone, maybe not even top 3, but top 2 corners are gone, I think they more lean into skill position, getting guys that are better than teams' number 3 corners. I'll just say that, because they're going to have to keep up with these other teams in the NFC West.
It would be interesting. Where do they pick? What's their pick?
16, dead in the middle. Dead ass in the middle of the first round.
I'm almost 100% positive that Pitts will be gone.
He's gone,
16, because he's just so blue chip. But if Freiermuth,
he might be in trade up range.
Yeah,
but
if Freiermuth is there, like, Freiermuth is better than their 3 tight ends tied together.
Yeah, I don't think they would do it at 16.
Maybe not.
If they
no, because the wide receivers are going to be better and more productive
Yeah.
But yeah,
If they want to get picks, he's
Oh,
like
sure.
the break glass in case of emergency kind of guy.
Yep,
That's
sure.
what I would think. Ian for $5 says, "Have you considered making a Discord server for high level football talk?"
No. Yes, we've considered it. Are we anywhere closer? We needed to get.
No, we're not close.
No, we're not close. We've talked about it. We've talked about a lot of things. Unfortunately, it's one of the things we're really good at is talking. But we got the store done, so now we have a little more bandwidth. Once we get through the draft, we can talk about stuff like that. But thank you for the suggestion or the question. We always like to hear what people want because this is for you guys. I mean, yes, it's for us. It's self-serving. We get to talk football with somebody that understands, and that saves our wives from it. But we really enjoy the interaction, and anything that's going to get us more interaction and give you guys more of what you want. You guys and girls, right? So many people have reached out to us and said, I'm a smarter football fan because I've been watching Bootleg for a year. I know all these guys in the draft because I watched Bootleg last year, or, I know more about schemes and fit, and I can understand the game better. Those are the comments that make all this stuff worth it. So any way that we can find, if it's Discord, if it's this, if it's that, if it's live streams, heck, once the world opens up again, maybe it's in-person events and meetups. We'd love to. Whatever everybody out there wants to do and consume, we're willing to consider. So,
yeah, absolutely. Also, Belichick was a kid in the candy store in free agency. Not quite sure I was a fan of every piece of candy he picked up for the price he paid for that candy, but he had a whole bunch of money and it was pretty much impossible to get worse. I'll say that.
You know what I think?
Huh?
I think Belichick went to the beach. I think he left Nike at the computer and said, go for it. Carte blanche. Card's right there, kid. Hit it. Because that's the way it looked. Click, click, click. I'll take that one.
Well, that explains the Aguilar signing.
Yep. I'll take that one. Well, here's the thing, right? With Juju and Galladay looking for money, and you look at what Aguilar got, like, go back a year and tell me that Aguilar getting his guarantee and Juju getting $8 million was on your bingo card, and I'll tell you that you're from the future because there ain't no way.
Aguilar, that beer's hitting you already, huh?
Aguilar. I always miss it. The problem is I mistype it every time, and then
I don't think I've spelled. I haven't spelled Pittsburgh correctly on the first try in like 5 years.
It's your fault.
Everybody lives in Pittsburgh.
Well, how often, honestly, do you type Darft?
Darft? What's that?
Draft.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
But it's really Dratif.
Draft. Okay. So you screw up the back and I screw up the front. And between the two of us,
it depends on the time of night.
Yeah.
After 2 a.m., it becomes Dratif. Alec Thomas for $5.
Yeah, we got to get to the 50, by the way, because holy shit.
We have a 50? Oh, shit.
I just looked up and I'm like, yikes. Okay, so we'll do Alex. Hey, guys, did you see Fields' unofficial 40? No, what was it? His pro day might tell a different story.
441.
Nah, we had this discussion last night pre-recording about how fast I was and the fact that I'm sure I can run a 4.4 if all these guys are running 4.2s because
except for Paris Ford.
Yeah, well, Paris Ford went the other way. But here's the deal. Typically at a combine, there are about 3, maybe 4 guys a year that run in the 4.2s, like actual time 4.2s in Indy. Everybody says slow track. That's been disproven. Indy is a neutral track. It is not a friendly home track, right? But it is a neutral track. It is not much slower than any other surface. 3-4 guys run 4.2. This year, you can't pitch a rock over your shoulder and not hit somebody that ran 4.2 because there were 3 4.2s yesterday, if you believe all the pro day stuff. So all the hand time stuff, you generally see scouts numbers come out later that are like, well, there were experienced scouts there that actually timed that guy at 4.45, which is fine. 4.45 is still plenty fast, but all this, I ran a 4.27 today. And you're like, did Fields run a 4.4? I don't know. If Fields ran a 4.55 or a 4.58 or a 4.61, I'm totally fine with that. Because honestly, I don't want Justin Fields doing a Lamar Jackson impression. Like, that's not his strength. Can he run? Absolutely. All 4 of the top guys in this quarterback class can run. I mean, really run. They are a threat if they take off. Hate to tell you, but Justin Herbert can run. Like, Justin Herbert, when he takes off with those long legs, he got yards. Like, he is a running threat. Nobody says that, but he is. So do I really care if he ran a 4.45 or a 4, anywhere between 4.45 and 4.65? I don't care. Now, if he came out and ran a 4.95, I'd be like, well, I didn't see that on tape. That's weird. I'd go back. But Justin Fields is extremely mobile, can pick up yards with his legs when he needs to, but that's not how he's going to kill defenses. I mean, he'll hurt him occasionally.
Here's what I saw. Justin Fields outrunning 4- and 5-star DBs and linebackers from Clemson to the edge.
Yep.
Good enough for me.
Get in the corner.
Good enough for me.
So we're good.
That's all I need.
Does it change the QB board? No. Thoughts on the Jags? I
can't remember who they got.
Generally, I'd say I'm kind of up and down. There were some moves that I was like, yeah. And then there were some moves I was like, okay. Like, we'll see. Because, again, got a new coaching staff, new offensive scheme coming in. So you can't just say, oh, he really fits their system. Their system got boom.
When did they sign Marvin Jones?
Fairly early, actually.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. And
I like
to
that.
me,
I like that.
Yeah. And, I think Carlos Hyde's fine. I don't know if Raquel Armstead's coming back or not, but James Robinson kind of makes the need for that a lot lower. They got Mannertz, Chris Mannertz, a block tight end from Carolina, who's got a little bit of wiggle to him.
The Alualu signing I thought was really good. He's a top 2 or 3 nose tackle at worst.
A lot of Jags fans were super happy about that. So if you guys don't follow Lori Fitzpatrick has been crushing Jags free agency coverage. She's also tremendous in the X's and O's department. I was just going back and forth with her on Twitter a couple hours ago. Follow Lori Fitzpatrick. She's got video clips of all these guys, comments about where they were, how they'll fit. She is just crushing it. So Lori is a quality follow. So shout out to her. But I don't know. I'm kind of up and down. It's funny. They pound, Urban Meyer said that his defensive coach, I can't remember if it was his defensive line guy or the defensive coordinator, pounded the table for Jihad Ward. He said, I don't know if I've ever seen a guy pound the table harder for a player. So they went out and got Jihad Ward, who I like, but I like the guy behind him too. Like, I like Smoot, right? I think Smoot's a really good player.
And they got Malcolm Brown too to kind of take away
Malcolm Brown to do this.
Well, more so Malcolm Brown to keep Taven Bryan on the bench, which I think is addition by subtraction for them, at least for their run defense for sure. And then you bring in Hamilton, Devon Hamilton in sub. And I think you're cooking with gas there. Edge, I'm still a little bit worried that they're going to keep Caleb Chase on at defensive end opposite Josh Allen.
You're not going to give that up, are you?
He's a linebacker.
I don't disagree.
He's a linebacker. Stop trying to make him a pure defensive end. He wasn't that.
Let's hop on. I just can't. That's like drawing my eyes. I'm like, $50? Are you kidding me?
Right. Let me go find that.
That's amazing. So, because I'll just say,
first of all, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
From merch for $50.
Well, hey, merch. We love it. Ravens GM, what are you doing this draft? So you know what to pay Lamar. Did the Ravens ruin Lamar doing the system? Yeah, because Lamar had ability to read and anticipate fans since 2017. Thank you. The system, like Greg Roman's system, did not maximize Lamar's talent and instead leaned on one particular talent very specifically. If you watch the playoff game, you saw it, right? Give him limited options in the pass, and they counted on Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson. And he is, and he can break defenses with a single rush. And he did twice in that game, and that was their offense. Like the rest of it, it was Mark Andrews and a bunch of guys that couldn't get open, and Lamar breaking the occasional 55-yard run down the middle or 75-yard touchdown because he's Lamar. That's not a good thing to count on. That's kind of classically putting all your eggs in one basket. So talent is one thing. You need guys who can separate, but you also need an updated passing scheme. I would love to have Greg Roman as the run coordinator because Baltimore's run game was on point, and not just Lamar, their running backs as well. So they need a little more talent. Luckily, talent is available in both free agency. They're pursuing Galladay. They were after Juju. They're out there. They know they need more receiving talent, and they can get even more in the draft. And they need that. They need to put Hollywood in a slot role, which is where he's really dangerous, not outside as a number one. That's a bad choice. And they need guys that can separate. And if you've got a guy that runs really good routes and separates, and you can give him some routes in an updated passing offense, you're going to support Lamar because he can hit them. He did in college. He ran Earhart Perkins in college. He can get through reads. Everybody's, he can't read. That's not true. Go back and look at his college film. He was not a one read guy. He was not a half field guy. He is a smart guy that can process very quickly, and he's got a tremendous arm. Let's not make the success of the Ravens team depend on Lamar hitting 75-yard runs. And that's what they kind of got narrowed down to in the playoffs. And that's why they got eliminated.
I think, again, the biggest thing they need is a true X, but not an X like a Miles Boykin where it's like, I only do one thing and that's just dominate with size and go win 50-50s and everything like that. Like, that's nice to have, but I'm talking like a true X in terms of I can beat press coverage. I can run away from you deep. If it's 3rd and 7, I can win like on more than just 3 different routes. Like, I can run anything in the route tree. Like, you want me to run a blaze out, I can do that. You want me to run a sluggo, I can do that. Like, you want me to have speed where I'm just doing a catch and run on a shallow cross, I can do that. It's having zone awareness, being able to diagnose coverages in real time, be on the same page as his receiver. Like, it's not like when I say X receiver, it's not just the physical profile, it's the skill set. Like, that is a number 1 outside receiver, a do it all, any situation you need him, he's got you kind of guy. There's not a whole lot of those in this class, and there's maybe one that will be available at the Ravens pick at absolute most. And that's Rashad Bateman. I think that's why they're in on Kenny Galladay right now, is because they realize, like, we are resting our entire hopes and dreams on the one thing we need and maybe having Bateman there, when they would much rather just go sign Kenny Galladay and guarantee that they can get that guy. So I think it's in their best interest to outbid New York. I don't know if they're going to be able to, because Kenny's still there, still taking physicals, still doing meetings. And that's bad.
Left the building.
He left?
That's what I heard.
Okay, well, that's good for Baltimore then.
It is good for Baltimore. The other thing is they're going to get a relative deal. Everybody was talking about Galladay in the 19 million range, and in a given cap year, in an average cap year, very likely that nobody was poo-pooing that talk with what Galladay is and the position he plays. The reality is people are talking about $12 and $14 million. It's a $5 million a year savings just because you're in a down cap year. And it's bird in the hand, right? It's guaranteed. Raven, bird in the hand. Did anybody get that? Anyways. No,
but, I mean, the cap's going to be $250 million in like 3 years.
But you've got it. And then if you can go out and Bateman's still there and you get him too, now you got it. Now you got Galladay, you got Bateman, you got Hollywood, you got Mark Andrews, you got that immense running game, which isn't going anywhere. Now you can threaten people on any down and distance, and that's what you need. And if everybody's covered, then Lamar can run 50 yards because they'll be all spread out covering all those guys and doubling Galladay. So good for you. You can win anyway on any down. So, and
because every single receiver they have is a role player. They need somebody who's more than that. So whether it's Galladay, whether it's Bateman. Yeah. But again, thank you so much for your generosity.
Tremendous.
Really appreciate it. This next one, unfortunately, StreamYard's deleted it, but I saved it because I came prepared this time. So I'm gonna
look at us getting better at this.
So this is Philip Lindsay is the GOAT for $5. Who are your top 5 running backs outside of Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams?
Oh, I thought you meant outside zone. I was like, Etienne, I'll take him. All right. I haven't done all the running backs. For those of you that know, I love running backs. Yes, I've seen them all. No, I haven't done all the studies. I saved that for the end of the draft as my carrot so I can get through all this stuff. Top 5 outside of Etienne, Najee, and Javonte, which are my general top 3.
Khalil Herbert's got to be up there. Kylan Hill's got to be up there.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert and Kylan Hill are in my just sort of early stack. I haven't watched Gainwell a lot. I mean, I've seen the highlights, but I haven't watched him watch him.
Michael Carter, maybe?
Michael Carter, I love, who is the running mate of Javonte Williams at UNC, and he is damn good in his own right. I would put him there. You might like Javian Hawkins because Javian Hawkins is super speedy and can be slashy in the right system. I know a lot of people that like Larry Roundtree. Trey Sermon, if you need a hammer. Trey Sermon is a beast. Not a big fan. Go ahead. Oh, Chuba?
Well, it depends on it. It depends on if you classify him as a running back. But Demetric Felton from UCLA.
I don't, but he can play running back, and we should talk about that. That we have a bunch of guys in this class, like Demetric Felton. Amari Rodgers took snaps at running back at the Clemson Pro Day, and if you've seen Amari Rodgers, he looks like a running back with his shirt off.
Yeah,
like
so does Rondale.
Those guys are built like they can absolutely. That's always been the thing. Oh, you don't put a wide receiver in the backfield because he'll take punishment. Those guys can take punishment. It doesn't really matter where you put them. And Elijah Moore, they did the same thing with Elijah Moore. They would put in the backfield and run him as a straight running back behind Kenny Yeboah. So a lot of guys that are just sort of that. Curtis Samuel was one of the first ones in more recent history to come out, and everybody was like, well, what is he? Is he a running back? Is he an offensive weapon? Is he wide receiver? Is he slot? And turns out if you use him correctly, he's all those things. So, who are some other guys that I really like? Jamar Jefferson, if you're a fan of big guys that like to run people over, Jamar Jefferson is awesome. I mentioned Chuba real quickly. Jarrett Patterson.
Forget about Chuba.
Yeah. Oh, totally. He's one of those. He's like Ronnie Perkins. Like everybody was talking about him, and now nobody's talking about him. And it's
he's explosive. I think he might end up being one of those first 5 or 6 guys taken.
Yeah.
You go back and watch 2019.
Yeah. Definitely 2019 film for Chuba Hubbard. Jarrett Patterson out of Buffalo is a ton of fun.
I haven't done him yet.
He's good. I like him. Trey Regis out of Louisiana, Lafayette. I saw him last year. He was part of a 3-headed backfield that the Cajuns ran, and he's coming out this year. He's a ton of fun. And then if you want to go real deep, I think it's Kene. Might be Keeney. Not sure. Kene Nwangu from Iowa State, much to my other podcast hosts' displeasure because he's an Iowa guy and he hates Iowa State. But yeah, Kene Nwangu is a lot of fun. Is he my top 5? No, he's not my top 5. Is he fun and is he a running back, which means I'm going to watch him? Yeah, he's good. And then if you want to go super, super deep, Jaquan Hardy, go look him up from Tiffin. Tiffin.
You would bring out running backs from fucking Tiffin when I'm like 7 deep at the position now, and you're like, I'm 25.
Yeah, I haven't even watched them yet. No, all those guys are pretty cool. And Spencer Brown from UAB. If you haven't seen him, go check him out.
A million of them.
Might be your flavor.
A million running backs.
Yeah.
Eli for $5. Worried Cards fan. They're making moves in free agency to capitalize on Kyler's contract, but still have big holes. Is next year as good as it gets? Well, we're not done yet. We're still not through free agency. We're still not through the draft. Yeah. We got to see what they do.
Yeah, this is really typical. And look, I had my meltdown last night when it was reported that that Kyle Fuller was no longer going to be a Bear because it just sort of signified a bunch of wrong decisions in a row for me. And I was like, But the bottom line is, look, they already brought in Desi Trufant, who, if he can stay on the field, will be an average replacement. They were in on Galladay. They, supposedly were in on Trent Williams, and everybody's like, what? And look, they're trying to switch money from defense to offense. And I get that. But they're not done yet. Right. And People are still saying the Russ thing's still alive. I don't really believe that. But look, if you surround Andy Dalton with a bunch of pieces and you get a good draft, it's a very different story. And that's the same story for every team right now. It's not set yet. They're not done. They haven't jettisoned all the guys they're going to jettison. They haven't brought in all the free agents. There is so much sitting in the second and third wave of free agency in terms of value. Look at the defensive tackle market. Look at the safety market. Look at the wide receiver market, which nobody expected. There are still some of the top guys. I mean, Galladay, we're still talking about Galladay at the end of the first week. Normally that guy would be, first day of the legal tampering period, he's off the board. For $19 million, everybody's like, oh, I wasn't going to pay for that. Here he is, kind of like, should I do this or do this at the end of the week? There's so much value out there in so many positions that your team can fundamentally change, right? They can get a starter or two for, especially this year, tremendous value. Then they can go out and have a killer draft. And what you're looking at in training camp doesn't really look anything like what you're seeing now at the end of the first week of free agency.
Keep in mind, they still need a corner, and the aforementioned Kyle Fuller is available.
Apparently he's not. Did you hear that?
No.
Okay. He wasn't on the transaction wire today, so they didn't submit the shit. Which
they're baiting a trade, aren't they?
Yep. They went, oh, look, everybody in the world wants him. Oh, maybe we can get something out of him, which is a bass-ackwards way to do it. But NFL teams do that. They go, we're going to release him. And everybody's like, I want to sign him. And they're like, maybe we can get a fifth because we didn't put the paperwork in. So
what happened with Rodney Hudson to the Cardinals?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very common NFL tactic. So if Ryan Pace ends up getting something for Fuller as opposed to just flat out cutting him, it makes the move better. It doesn't make it good. It's still a crappy move, but it makes it better. You shouldn't pitch a damn near all-pro caliber corner who's 29 for nothing. That's a bad move.
Well, if Arizona just tosses them whatever, because Arizona is loading up, you might as well. You got a cheap quarterback, like you can make it work, and get Fuller, and then go sign Adoree Jackson as a mercenary. Coming off injury and a 1-year deal, all of a sudden your secondary is Kyle Fuller, Adoree Jackson, and Byron Murphy in nickel, backing up a pass rush with J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones and the million defensive tackles they just drafted last year.
Yeah,
we're cooking.
Beer number 2, Ninkasi Brewing out of Eugene, Oregon, home of University of Oregon. Total domination IPA. Your team will be totally dominating. I guarantee it. Because you can always say that before free agency and the draft's over, right?
Yeah, it's March. Everybody has a chance. Except
the dream lives. Yeah.
The dream lives. But no, there's a lot to be done. And there's a lot of potential moves they could make that
they could come out of this looking really good.
Yeah. Give them another week. Just give them a week.
Give it till the end of the draft. Like, if Keim plays his cards right, this team could be much better than it was last year.
Ali McGrath for £5 or euros?
Euro. That's Euro.
Seattle is going to need a center since they're obviously not getting one in free agency. Who would be available in the second when Seattle picks? Creed Humphrey more than likely is going to be gone. I'd be very surprised if he's still there.
Because Seattle's would have to go to is what? Because John trades so much, I never know whether it's their actual where they finished pick, which would be low, or something they got from somebody 3 years ago, which would be higher.
I don't actually know off the top of my head. But even if they miss out on Creed, Landon Dickerson's coming off an ACL, so he might go lower than you think, and he's a really good center. Quinn Miner's favorite of the show. I think day 2 is about right for him. He's a really, really good athlete, dominated down at the Senior Bowl, perfect system fit for them, tough as nails.
Ooh, I know a guy they could get way later, and it would fit their system if they're again, what you said earlier in the show was really prescient. If they're sticking with inside zone based on who their guards are, David Moore.
Oh, yeah. He had a really good Senior Bowl, too.
Grambling State. He's a stump. Like, he is not a guy you want getting out and blasting guys on outside zone, but he is a guy that you are not moving. Like, you are
he and Damian together with Gabe, too. I mean, you're not bull rushing the middle of that pocket, which is good because Russ hates interior pressure.
Oh, he should.
He's a shorter guy. Yeah, he's a
like
shorter guy. He hates interior pressure. That would be great. So there's centers.
There's availability.
Yeah.
And there's so many guys that played multiple positions. Like Robert Hainsey, who was a tackle at Notre Dame, played all the way along the line at the Senior Bowl. They had him snap at the Senior Bowl. They had him play guard. I think he's a better guard. He was kind of at tackle for me. At guard, he looked good. He played center, and I was like, okay, now this guy is one of those guys that you can move like Elson Jenkins, that you can put at all 5 positions. Those guys are tremendously valuable on a 53-man. So,
didn't Posick play tackle at LSU and then they made him center? Incorrectly?
He might have. He moved. He was not always a center for sure.
He was something else. Aiden Kelly for $2. Have you studied Cade Johnson, Tyler Lockett clone? That's a very interesting comp, and I don't disagree.
He's good.
I was just looking at his Senior Bowl reps again yesterday.
His Senior Bowl reps are like, whoo. So
scorched everybody.
SDSU, and that's not San Diego State. That is South Dakota. That is the Jackrabbits. Cade Johnson, wide receiver, had a great Senior Bowl. Very good route runner. Excellent hands, good body control, not going to blow you away athletically. He's not the guy that's necessarily going to run right by you or jump over you to get the ball, but that doesn't matter because he's a very good route runner. He's technically sound. He is physical enough to do what he needs to do. And I'm okay with the Tyler Lockett thing, but then again, I'm fussy about comps.
Well, Lockett had more gas, but in the first 10 yards and body type and everything like that, I can see it.
Yeah,
but
I like
it's the 30 yards downfield that Tyler's got him. But
I like Cade.
He's a really good player. LDDJ for $5. Denver's whole season depends on Locke. Agreed. If they take a QB, who should they take or roll with Locke and take maybe Slater, Surtain, Parsons, JOK? So the Surtain, it kind of depends on what happens with Kyle Fuller,
because
I think he fits them, but we got to see what there's still corners available in free agency, Adoree.
I really think that Kyle's going to either Denver or the Chargers, and nobody's talked about the Chargers, but I cannot believe that Brandon Staley wouldn't be like, come here, buddy.
No, he would love it.
I got to use it for you.
Him and because they let go of Casey.
Yes, they did. Who was 32, 3 years older.
Who's their? Hold on, let me stand by.
They could use it. Anyways, those are 2 guys from a system fit that both have coached in a defense that Kyle Fuller was in. They've both seen him up close. They understand his value in that defense, which is immense. It is the alpha lockdown. We don't need anybody to mess with, and he can do edge force seal if we leave him in short zone. That gives you 2/3 of your defense to absolutely open up because you're like, Kyle's got that corner. Now, I'm not
they
saying
really need outside corner too because all they've got is Michael Davis. And
so I cannot believe if he's truly available that the Chargers are not a player for him. Like, they have to be. So, again, the Arizona thing would be nice, but I really think it's Chargers and Denver kind of going, push me, pull me, like who's going to give up a 5th instead of a 6th or whatever.
In regards to if they take a quarterback, who should they take? I still don't believe there's going to be any available at 9. Maybe Lance. Maybe
Lance. Definitely Mac, but do you want that at 9? No.
It's like, would you rather have Mac Jones or Drew Lock and Caleb Farley? Would you rather have Mac Jones or Drew Lock and Owusu Koromoa? I don't think Parsons is in play for them. I don't think he's really Vic's style.
No, Vaughn's coming back, so I don't know if
they're that far. He would play the same role that Vaughn would, in my opinion. Again, not that Parsons is a bad player, but I feel like Vic just wants something a little bit different out of his linebackers. I feel like Owusu Koromoa's skill set's a little bit more in line with that.
And Vic is not crazy about rookies.
Roquan was an exception to the rule.
He didn't pick Roquan. He put him in because he had to play him, and Roquan showed that
I thought he was big on Roquan.
He's big on what he brought. Vic's not huge on rookies. He's not anti-rookie like some coaches, but he's not one of those guys that like Pete, who's just like, look, I'll rotate him through like competition. If they win, I'm putting them in. Like Vic's like, They have to do things
because
right.
Vic hates mental mistakes.
Yes, they have to do
It's the
things
same reason
right.
why Zimmer doesn't trust anybody under the age of 28.
Yeah,
Same reason.
Yep. No, I
Zim
agree.
just hates mental mistakes.
Totally agree.
I think trading up for Fields would make sense for them, but that's kind of like the one Hail Mary.
Yeah, if they're out. I mean, they have to be out on Drew. And what you said first is the biggest thing in that whole thing is Denver's whole season depends on Locke and what they think of Locke. Right.
Which we still don't know.
Right. If they're in, you're good. And if they're out, then yeah, they're going to make all the moves to get around that. So, all right. I know that you have to go fairly soon. I'm good for
I'll give another 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm good for whatever.
And then I'm taking my wife out to dinner.
Yeah, indeed. Life calls for both of us. So I know folks were like, only 1 hour? Can you guys physically only do 1 hour? We could go 8 hours straight. We could literally talk about this stuff for 8 hours straight. But tonight, life's not going to allow that. So we introduced the store. We hope to satiate some of your draft thirst with a Q&A. Again, thanks to everybody for showing up. Thanks for everybody around the world who tunes in, who listens, who watches the content, who comments, who interacts with us on Twitter. It's all amazing. We do all this stuff for you because this is largely your show. You are our folks, and we are thrilled to be able to interact with you. So can't thank you enough for all the super chats, all the regular questions as well. We'll answer a couple more. You can always ping us on Twitter if you want an answer. Both of us are
I'll throw that up in the end for any that we missed.
Greetings from Mexico. We don't talk about Mexico enough. We should. Do you think that after the Dolphins signed Fuller and Robert Foster, they still need to drop top wide receiver? Yeah, no, yeah,
yeah,
no. Yeah. If they can get one of the absolutely premier talents at 3, if they can put Waddle back with Tua, no, regardless about who he said his favorite quarterback was, it should totally be done. Like, yes, again, in the modern NFL, you need an elite wide receiver core, and I don't mean 1. I don't mean 2. You gotta be 3 deep. You gotta have 3 killers, and they should just go get one. They shouldn't wait and hope that their guy drops to 18 or settle or decide on something. Like, go get one, and then at 18, like, bolster the rest of that offensive line. Or they've had some losses on defense. There's some folks they might consider at 18 in the secondary that would make that a just lockdown secondary. Like, but at 3,
let me put it to you this way: the Chiefs, who have Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and an assortment of other guys, it's one of the best supporting casts in the entire league. Even they need more wide receivers. What precludes the Dolphins, who have just got Fuller and Foster, Fuller on a 1-year deal? What precludes the Dolphins from not needing more guys? Everybody needs more guys, but especially the Dolphins, especially since their big free agent signing at receiver is a 1-year deal, who's, if he pops off, if he even plays, is going to immediately want to leave to go get a bag somewhere.
For sure.
So, yeah, take one at 3, take another one in the second round. Don't stop till you got 3 or 4 deep. That's how I see it.
Sure.
Len here for $2. What should Washington do for the draft? Owusu, wide receiver, whatever the hell they want. Because their roster, other than left tackle,
we were just talking about this last night.
Pretty complete.
Roster is sneaky good. Like,
yeah, they don't need a whole lot.
No, they weren't that many pieces away. They added quite a few of those in free agency, and they had a lot more than a lot of people gave them credit for because they lost a lot of games, and that's very typical for a team that doesn't win a ton of games, is their good players get overlooked. Now their secondary is amazing. Their defensive line was already amazing last year. They're adding threats to go with McLaurin, Gibson, and they got Logan Thomas. Like, they got pieces there. They got some quarterbacking talent who's ready to unleash it. They're going to be a fun team to watch.
I think they're in play for Darisaw. I think Darisaw would complete that team.
Yes. And, oh, come on, a Virginia Tech kid going like 2 hours up the road and playing in Washington? That'd be awesome.
I didn't even think about that. But
yeah, it would super local.
Perfect sense. Nikhil Paluri. Evening, gentlemen. How should be more used potentially high pick from trading Orlando Brown, in your opinion? Now they say, did they say they don't need a wide receiver one? That's a lie.
Don't believe that.
They do. They do. They
bullshit
absolutely
detector,
do.
flash, bullshit detector. No, don't believe that. They need
Yeah.
a wide receiver one. But evening to you as well, Nikhil. No,
I would get another tackle, to be honest, because
but they got to get
it's still a hole. You just get one that's cheaper. Because I mean, they got Orlando round 2, I think,
because of his
potentially
wonderful pro day.
Which I mean, he was just a classic case of just watch the tape.
Yep,
like he was kicking the shit out of the Bosas. Like, just watch the tape.
If he gets one arm on you, you're done. So it doesn't really matter that he's not super fast.
They can get a 1 out of him, potentially, maybe.
Not this year.
Well, if the Chargers...
If he had a contract in hand that paid him the way he wanted to, teams would take that on. This year, with no money, they're not getting a 1. And that's just a bummer for him because he could play left tackle, I think. But he wants to be paid like a left tackle. He's not currently, which means you got to take him on. You got to pay him new money, and you're giving up a 1. He's not that good. Like, he's good, but he's not that good.
I think there was a few teams that were desperate enough to do it about a week ago.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of it that way.
And maybe they're not as desperate. Like, the Chargers were desperate like 4 days ago.
Sure.
Maybe not as much now. But honestly, he might not get traded till after the draft when people see, like, do I get one or do I not?
Sure. The people that miss out on the tackle they thought could start, if you end up with a developmental tackle and you needed one to start, and there's one pining for an opportunity, and your owner says, yeah, I'll give you the cash because you're going to have to put down cash for Brown. Yeah.
If they do get a 1, though, just get another tackle that's cheaper because you can in this class.
Sure.
One more for me, and then I'm taking the wife out for date night. From Kelsey, just watch your video on Jalen. Is he too early on pick 11 or is the value just right? Well, I thought he could go as high as 4.
So no,
that's not too early for me.
And honestly,
not too early for me at all.
We make the point, if you spend some time, watch the Defensive Gems episode tomorrow because, hey, it's a really good episode. And we talk a lot about Jalen. And Brett's point that I followed up, which is if you're not super worried about the concussion history, and Brett particularly goes fairly deep on that, gives you some detail about what brought that up, what would cause that. If you're okay with the concussions on Jalen, he plays a premium position, and there's not anybody that plays it better, like flatly better than him in this whole draft. So think back to all the drafts from the last 2 or 3 years and say, oh, edge number 1 at 11? No, edge number 1 at like 5, at like 3, at 1 particularly. Like, is he worth a 1? No. Is he worth a 5? Probably. Is he worth a 10? Hell yes. Is he? Do you get him at 11? If you're comfortable with the concussions, hell yes. Like, you get a premium position at 11 for whatever reason. If you're okay with the medicals, the talent you're getting is definitely commensurate with an 11th slot. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, shit. I had half a mind to say that if Jalen goes top 5 or 6, I'm looking at like Ronnie Perkins at 11, which would be on the very, 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 very top range for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's going to shake some trees.
But if there was nothing left, that they needed because they just took tackle, and if they were okay with corner, and if they're still committed to Daniel Jones, and let's say they signed Golladay, so receivers not desperate. If that's what's left, there's worse things I think they could do than Ronnie Perkins, just because I love Ronnie Perkins. But
sure.
Anywho, I'm gonna get out of here and take the lady to dinner.
I'm gonna answer Immortal's question in one word. Immortal has a $9.99 super chat. So there's a rookie RB that would be insane behind the Niners on the line, and RB that would be unfair. Etienne.
Oh fuck yes.
Etienne in that Shanahan system is like, bets are off, like scorched earth. Forget it. It's over. So anyways, you need to go to dinner. hopefully we answered as many of your questions as we can. Definitely check out bootlegfootballpodcast.com. Pick up your shirts, glasses, hats, whatever you want. There'll be more stuff soon. Tell us what you want. We have a great relationship with our vendor there. We can get pretty much anything. He's got access to 7,000 products. So if there's something that you would use with the Bootleg logo on it, tell us about it. We'll get it up there. But yeah, for now, keep the draft questions coming. Check out the Defensive Gems episode, which will drop tomorrow on the Bootleg Football channel. Tell all your friends to subscribe. Follow Brett and I on Twitter. Keep up to date on all the draft and free agency news that you can possibly consume.
And because I never like you guys to waste your money, if I missed your super chat, which we got dozens and dozens and dozens as per usual, please DM me on Twitter, ask your question there. Let me know what I missed. You can DM EJ as well. Let me throw up his Twitter handle as well.
It's right there.
Happy somewhere over there. We are happy to answer all of your questions offline that we didn't get to during the stream. I'll just be laying awake in bed tonight just answering, because we tend to get more questions than it's physically possible to answer. So please DM me there, DM EJ, and we'll talk football tonight. But again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Go check out the store. We love you. A new podcast will be live tomorrow morning on Defensive 10 Gems. See you guys there.